Welcome to your fossil fuels tutorial. Today we are going to talk about what are fossil fuels, where we find them, are they renewable or are they non-renewable sources of energy, and what are some examples of fossil fuels. This will help you complete your work for Grade 4, Week 29 of the NYC DOE Science Curriculum. Let's answer the question, what are the three types of fossil fuels? Make sure to write this in your notebook so you can refer to it later. The three types are coal, oil, and natural gas. Now that you know the three main types of fossil fuels, let's talk about where do we find fossil fuels? We usually find them in the Earth's crust, which is the outermost layer of the Earth. So you're not just going to look at the ground and go, hey, a fossil fuel. You do have to dig a little bit. So let's talk about where those come from. So when we go and we dig into the Earth's crust, we find these things called fossil fuels. I want you to take a minute and think about where you've heard the name fossil before. Where does that word sound familiar? Maybe at the Natural History Museum where we see fossils? And what do we see fossils of? Dinosaurs! Fossil fuels come from prehistoric plants and animals dying and being buried within layers and layers of sedimentary rock, and all that pressure over hundreds of millions of years form into fossil fuels. So all over the world, many times within the ocean, we find under the Earth's surface, sometimes really far down, sometimes not quite as far down depending on where you are in the world, you find these pockets of oil. And that's because that's where a lot of prehistoric plants and animals died and were buried and were part of the formation of sedimentary rocks and fossil fuels. So, we've learned where do we find fossil fuels and what are they made up of? Well, we know that they're made up of prehistoric plants and animals. So let's answer the question, are fossil fuels renewable or non-renewable sources of energy? The answer is nope. They are not renewable. They are non-renewable sources of energy because we aren't getting any more dinosaurs. I'm sorry, Jurassic Park fans, we are just not. Since we're not getting any more prehistoric plants and animals, we will one day run out of fossil fuels. Therefore, it is a non-renewable source of energy. So what are some examples of ways people use fossil fuels? Well, the biggest one is we use it for gas in cars. Gas comes from oil. We use gasoline to get everywhere in our cars. We also use it to heat many of our buildings. And we use it to produce electricity. Fossil fuels fuel energy. And we use them even though they are going to run out because a lot of the time they're inexpensive and they're easy to store in large quantities. So therefore we use them once again for gas for cars, heating, and producing electricity. Now you may find that we are starting to use less and less of these, like we don't heat our homes with coal anymore, but we still use them in our everyday lives. Here's a quick recap of what we discussed today. Today we discussed the three types of fossil fuels, where fossil fuels are found, how fossil fuels are formed, are they renewable or non-renewable sources of energy, and uses of fossil fuels. I hope this was helpful. Good luck.